Well, hello again to all the boys and girls out there in YouTube land watching. John and Ellie of Georgia Beer Reviews back at you today with something special. We are looking at the Old Charter 8-year age statement Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey. This bottle is courtesy of Robert the Whiskey Scout. And, of course, joining me is Robert the Whiskey Scout. So thanks for hanging out with me this Sunday afternoon, Robert.
You're welcome. I'm going to get the 750 out so they can see what the 750 bottle looked like. This is what when you got the 750 bottle, this is how the label looked. So just so you guys can see that. We're doing
They don't have the 750 is not actually embossed like this one is it?
But it's got no, you're right. It's not got but this is the same type embossment that comes on the Charter 101. And there's one other whiskey that uses that. I can't think of what it is right now. But it's a Buffalo Trace product where they use this embossed glass like that. That's cool. That's one of the prettiest glasses I think ever made.
It really is.
Barley and the corn.
It's nice too to see some of the smaller, non 750 ml bottles that are still, in glass. Everything now is plastic unless you buy the bigger bottles.
Yeah. I don't know if I don't know how much they use these anymore to tell you the truth. But anyway, yeah, this comes with the facets around the neck part on this. But anyway, that's what the original looked like. Nowadays, I think it's just an all-round bottle, neck and all. And it'll just have the 8 on the neck label. It won't have aged 8 years on it. And it is a Kentucky Straight Bourbon. And in this case, this is weird. I just now noticed this. No, I thought that was 43% for some reason. It's 40, just like this. But it doesn't have anywhere on it that it was aged less than 4 years. And if it says Kentucky Straight Bourbon and it doesn't have any number on there less than 4 years, then it's at least a 4-year-old bottle. In this case, it's labeled 8 years, so we definitely know it is an 8-year bottle. But that's something to always, anytime you're looking at anything that's labeled Kentucky Straight Bourbon that doesn't have the 8-year age statement on, or has a age statement on, it's at least 4 years. Because usually on these labels, where it'll say it at is up here, somewhere on here, I'll say aged for 36 months. And you'll know you're not getting a 4-year product. And I believe the new one, this has went through changes. This is an older one. Age of the bottle is probably, I think they quit making it with this age statement at least 7-8 years ago is my guess. I don't remember exactly. It's all got the 8 on it now and that means 8. They got sued, so they had to clarify. And on the website, it clarifies as 8, meaning 8 seasons, which is 4 years. But I even think the last time I checked, I'm not going to say that because I might be getting it confused with something else. But I thought for some reason I was under the impression now it's even younger than that. So, but they went from what we consider at 40%, a good product at 40% alcohol by volume, to what it is now is not very good.
Kind of run of the mill, just your ho-hum.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it. Ho-hum.
Thanks to Jib Downey. Cheers to you, buddy. And Craig, thanks for stopping by.
Yep.
I'm going to go ahead and pour some up here.
Let's pour it up. I noticed you've enjoyed that. This is my last bottle in 375 like I sent you. I bought, I think, 4 of them. That's what they had on the shelf when I did buy it. I keep going to there, like I was telling you off air, hoping that they find another cardboard box in the back amongst all them cardboard boxes that they forgot about, and they find it and throw them on the shelves. But so far they haven't. And I'm not permitted to go through the boxes. I've been back there into the warehouse part and seen all of it. And in fact, I was back there and they had a second case on the Eagle Rares. And I asked her about it, and she said, "Oh, yeah, we got more." I said, "Well, I bought the last one up there. You're going to restock with this one?" And I started comparing lot numbers, And the lot number on the case she had back there actually was about 2 years older than the one she had up front. She said she bought them all at once, so they must have given her 2 different lots when she purchased it. And she just grabbed one and put it on there. Well, I think that was a 2009, 2010 Eagle Rare. The older ones were 2008. So anyway, but I bought a lot of Eagle Rare from her. She can't get it no more. So anyway, since we had
the standard Eagle Rare, which I really enjoyed. Yeah. I haven't had any of the,
the standard's fine. Right. It's a
good whiskey. Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoy it. The other night when we was talking about, and you pointed out banana, that's so right. I didn't notice it when I did my review of it. I didn't notice a banana note on this, but it was a different bottle. So, things change. Different bottles have different things. But I do notice it. But I also notice the caramel and the vanilla.
Yep.
They're both in there rather well.
It smells good. I think the thing that kind of puts this one a little bit higher than a lot of your standard bourbon. Well, this is 8-year, but a lot of standard bourbon whiskeys, you don't get the fruity, the banana. I find the Evan Williams Bonded, I find that you get the banana. I really love that one. That's a great bottled in bond product. But I find that you get a lot of that with this. Of course, the caramel, the vanilla, and the oak. I mean, it's just woodiness. There's a strong wood presence on the nose.
And on mine, that's what I was going to next. And it's maybe ever so slightly perfumey on the wood.
Mm-hmm.
Just a little bit.
That's a good way to put it, yeah.
And these are notes that I didn't get on the first one. The banana, and I got the oak, but I didn't notice it's almost a little perfumey with this. Now that I've, 2 years ago I did it, and a lot of things changed. My palate changes a little bit over 2 years. And a lot of, you have different perceptions that the more you drink, the more you perceive things in a different path. I still get the savory note, though, that I found back then. There's like this deep savory note in it that kind of backs everything up.
It just smells delightful. It's just
and for 40%, I mean, this is a good pour for a 40%. You don't normally get this much out of a 40% bourbon. Mostly you're wanting 45, even 50%. Then the flavors start speaking more boldly. This holds it pretty well, really.
Yeah.
Let's get in the palate.
Yeah, let's do it. Cheers, Robert.
Cheers. Caramel and vanilla. And it's
then maybe a little fruitiness in the background there from the or the perfumey, fruity notes in the back. But yeah, caramel and vanilla right up front.
Vanilla, that oak. I don't notice the perfuminess of the oak like I do in the nose as much in the palate. It comes more across as just a solid oak note to me. A little bit. The banana kicks in now. It's been in my mouth for 10, 12, 15, 20 seconds. And the banana's starting to show now. It still carries that savory. It carries a savory note. It's a subtle but solid savory note in this one that I get. I'm not going to say meaty. It's not really a meaty savory note, but it's just a kind of a rich savory note.
My descriptors with whiskey, I kind of look because I mostly do beer, but like I want to say body, like it's got substance, it's got body to it. A lot of whiskeys that I've had, even bourbon whiskeys, which I find bourbon has more flavor than like obviously your American or any of the blended stuff. It's a very bold experience a lot of times, but I have had bourbon that has that thin body. It's not that it's watery, but it doesn't have the substance that this one has. This has got a lot going on, a lot of, and maybe that's what I'm like. You're talking about savory. Maybe we're trying to say the same thing, and I'm just saying it differently. But it definitely has that oomph to it.
Body wise, it is, to me, it's not thin like some, no, but it's not much more than a thin to medium mouthfeel for me. But now you got to remember, I've drank a lot of bourbon, and so once you've had some really heavy ones, and you really get that Kentucky chew, they call it, going on. This doesn't quite contain that. This is just not quite there at that level. It's not watery thin, but it is a little thinner than most. It's not as, I think what saves it is that savory note. Now, you're right, that's a good tie-in. That savory note keeps it more developed in the mouthfeel and less noticeable about how the thinness is, because you're still resonating something in there, something that's still just hanging around. And if it's super thin, most of the time they don't hang around, but we do have about a medium finish with this. It's not going away immediately.
Yeah, it does linger a little bit. Yeah,
right.
In a good way. Right.
Now, if you look at the legs on it, she does form legs. No, they run fairly quick. They're not, once they beat and develop, they run pretty good. They're not sticking around like some of the thicker ones. I mean, you have an occasional thick one that goes slow, but I'm talking the majority of the legs run pretty fast.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that note, that caramel, in this one, it has such a wonderful, good caramel vanilla note. Ever so maybe slight bit of nutmeg. For the
I really like that perfumey note that you get too, which I guess you mentioned that would be coming from the oak, but it does have a nice little perfumey note as well on the aroma. Not so much translating to the palate, but it increases the overall enjoyability factor, because it just, because the nose has a lot to do with the overall experience.
Oh yeah, and
it is just. I wish I could make this an air freshener for my apartment. I could just smell this. I could just sit here and smell this all day.
It's better than your average bourbon in this packaging. At 40%, it becomes very drinkable. It has a lot of flavor at 40%. You're not getting your house burned down. You're not drinking a sip and going, it's not giving you a lot of heavy alcohol notes on it. And that makes this dangerously drinkable in some ways. Mm. Now, you can say that about high ABV bourbons too. There are some that drink way under their what you perceive as an alcohol note in it. But this one drinks like a 40%er to me. But the flavors are so subtle. They're bold but subtle. In other words, they're not sharp. They're there. You taste them. They're good. But it's a pleasant note. It's not something sharp jabbing at your tongue and then retreating. It just develops and develops and develops and develops and then goes. Mm-hmm. Instead of punching you. Right. And
now, does Old Charter have a? Do they do any barrel proof stuff, or is?
No, the Old Charter 101, and the Old Charter 101. All the reading I've ever done on that, it was. How do I want to say this? Let me think about this just for a minute. It was kind of a one-off for Buffalo Trace. They'd only put it out every once in a while, and only a few states would get it. Kansas was one that would get Old Charter 101. They just called it Charter 101. And the perception was Buffalo Trace had some aged barrels that they didn't know what to do with the whiskey. And it became a way for them to put it out on the market to the public and sell it. And the bottle for the Old Charter 101 looks remarkably like the old Charter 8-year-old with the faceted top. But it just wasn't as, I don't know how to say this. It wasn't a consistent release. It would only be every few years, and for some reason it would be released. Nobody knew why or when. So the thought was, like I said, Buffalo Trace ended up with extra barrels, maybe for some other line, that they were able to blend some other whiskeys in, keep the ABV up to 101, and follow the basic profile of Old Charter and release it as such. That's the only. The Old Charter 10-year-old, I showed you the bottle earlier, that is 43%. This is only 40, but that's the only barrel aged, barrel proof. That's the highest proof that I know about for Old Charter.
Right.
It's an old brand though. It's been around for years. I mean, years.
Yeah, it says on the label since 1874. So that's, I mean, some history there.
Yeah, then I would go with that. I mean, I've never researched it completely, so I couldn't tell you, but that sounds about right. Old Charter and 10 High both are very old brands in the bourbon world. And they kind of started out the same, similar in some ways as budget bourbons, but the 10 High didn't carry an age statement that I was ever aware of. But Old Charter has.
Yeah. And one thing we were talking a little bit off air, if you want to mention it to the viewers, the lawsuit with the Old Charter, because they went from 8-year to just the Old Charter 8. And you were telling me earlier it had to do with the seasons, and it wasn't.
Yeah. Well, first they went from Old Charter 8 years to Old Charter 8, and somebody filed a lawsuit against them. It must have been successful, but I can't say for certain. But it was after that they released on there and said it meant 8 seasons, and they referred you to the website after that. Now, they could do that because in the day and age we live in, they've got a website, and this only being 8 years old, their website's probably, Buffalo Trace's website's been up for a long time. And so you go to their website and look at that, and that's what it kind of tells you. But they had to back off of that, and I'm not sure let me jump to the website real quick. I'm kind of curious.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting to me because it's almost like they were trying to pull a fast one, because they by still calling it 8, even though it didn't say 8 years, the consumer was thinking that it was still 8 years age, even though in reality it was not.
It was, and you're right, and that was what generated the lawsuit. There in the after 2010 or so, for the next few years, a few other bourbons tried that out. I got another one here. I kept the bottle because it's in essence a rare bottle, even though it's not very old. And it's the Breckenridge Bourbon Whiskey. Special release, handcrafted bourbon whiskey, 9,600 feet, 43%. Produced and bottled at Breckenridge Distillery, Breckenridge, Colorado. It won a lot of awards, and it really was Bourbon of the Year. Well, people were buying it. Pretty soon it got leaked out that some of the juice in this was coming out of MGP. When that happened, 2 lawsuits were filed on them in court in Chicago, and they won. They won the suits. I think Old Charter 8 went through something similar. Now, I'm not going to say it was exact, but it kind of went through something similar. Yeah, if you look at the Old Charter bottle now, it just has the 8 on top and just says 8, 80 proof, blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on it. They list that one as peppery and a mellow toffee, and I don't agree with that, but it's a different whiskey now than it was.
Right.
But it just has the 8 on it. And the 8 stood for 8 seasons. And I'm surprised they don't make mention of it now on the website. So,
which when I first heard you say 8 seasons, that makes me think of 2 years, because there's 4 seasons in a year, but there's only two distilling seasons a year, right? Okay.
Yeah, there's only 2 distilling seasons in a year, and that's what that refers to. So, in essence, it would be a 4-year-old bourbon.
Right. Okay.
And I don't know. Let me look it up real quick again. Old Charter 8 lawsuit.
Well, guys, whoever's watching out there, if you ever can get your hands on a bottle of the 8-year aged Old Charter, I think it's definitely worth checking out. And I just went ahead and poured the rest, so might as well finish it.
Meant to be enjoyed. Penrose versus Buffalo Trace Distillery involves the labeling of Old Charter bourbon for years. Old Charter sold an 8-year-old version and a 12-year-old version with their labels very prominently displaying an 8 to 12. They also did a 10, which I showed you earlier, in several places. According to the complainant, in 2014, Old Charter 8 was reformulated to use less aged bourbon described in the courts. These are older than 2014, so 6 years and older. Non-age statement or NAS bourbon. The labels continued to prominently display an 8 in the same manner on the prior label. In addition to the label previously stated aged 8 years, the NAS bourbon label states gently matured for 8 seasons. So I don't got one. I've had an Old Charter 8 with it, have the 8-year on it, but God, I don't remember a lot about it. But anyway, that was the lawsuit that was generated because of their changing of the label.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't want to go into too much detail, read the whole damn thing and what happened.
No, that's fine.
This ain't the time or place for it, but
I could go ahead. I mean, now full disclosure, I'm not very. I do the whiskey and the wine stuff sometimes on my channel, but I don't. I can say I don't feel as comfortable rating products like this as I do with beer because my exposure to beer is just I've tried everything. With whiskey, not so much. Bourbon is my favorite style. I do like some of the single malt scotches that I've had recently, especially some of the ones that you sent me. That just puts it on a whole nother level for me and makes me really want to get into some of the scotches. But bourbon has always kind of been my go-to. And I really I've been enjoying this. I would give it at least a 94, and I could be lowballing it, but it's probably higher now just because you can't get it anymore, and it's just that appeal. It has that extra appeal factor. But overall, if I'm looking at it just from a standard bourbon rating scale, I would just probably give it a 94 out of 100. I really like the fruity notes. The caramel and the vanilla are really nice. It does have that perfumey note on the aroma from the oak, and then that banana. Really, I love the banana notes with this that you don't get with a lot. The only other bourbon that I can really think of that it makes me think of banana right off the top of my head is the Evan Williams White Label, the Bonded, which is 100 proof, which is a lot higher than this. It's 100 proof. But this one has a little bit of those same notes, and I'm really enjoying it. And it's a great product. I mean, it's a damn shame that they don't still manufacture this version of it. I think if I tried the standard Old Charter now, I would probably be pretty disappointed after having this.
Now, my scale, it's weird. I give a lot higher scores where beers are concerned than I do whiskeys, but I've had a lot more time judging whiskey. Right. Yeah. My original score for this was 82. And anything 80 to 85 is very drinkable. It's not something that is something I will offer other people. It's something that's very drinkable. It's not something I'm going to rave about, but it's a good one. But that was in 2018. I really think I'm going to lift that score to right now an 85. And 85 is always, and I kind of learned this from Scott. When I listened to Scott, me and him talked about it before. And 85 is where all whiskey starts. It can either go down with detractions or up with additions, but that 85 is a solid whiskey. Anytime it's a B, solid B, that's a very drinkable, good whiskey. This is a very drinkable, good whiskey. Can I get better? Yes. Could we give it a higher score because it's unavailable? Some people would probably, like you would. I understand the meaning for that, but in this case, I just got to judge it on whiskey being whiskey for me in this case, for bourbon being bourbon. It's an 85. It's solid, drinkable, lots of good flavors. There's no real super wow factor here, that's going to carry it up a notch. But as far as a solid everyday drinker, if you can still get these in pints and 750s, it's a good one to cart around. I said it on my review back then. It's a good take-to-go fishing whiskey. You can throw that in your cooler, and when you're out there, just take a sip now and then. Don't want to do it on a hot day. Keep it kind of cool.
Right.
Lately, it's been a little
very, very cool. Take it if you're sipping it out of the bottle there. That's just such a cool bottle. Make you feel pretty cool sipping out of this thing.
Yes.
Which I will actually. I don't save whiskey bottles or anything, but I think I'm going to save this one just because I've never seen a bottle quite like this, and it'd be a good, good bottle to refill. You could seal it up pretty good, so you could put something else in here and.
I love the embossment on it. I mean,
I do too. Yeah.
That's very nice. They are a nice bottle. I agree with you, 100%. But yeah, it's an 85. I want to stick with the 85. I understand why you're going 94, and but it's a solid drinking bourbon. It's as good as a lot of other bourbons I got up there. Maybe I would prefer Evan Williams Bottled and Bond to this. I can't lie. Or J.W. Damp Bottled and Bond, or any number of those. You're just getting more mouthfeel, better note. Oh, back to the banana note before I forget.
Mm-hmm.
The banana note on a Jack Daniels is somewhat similar to the banana note in this. I think the Jack Daniels is a little bit more vibrant. This one's not quite as vibrant as what you get in the Jack, but outside of the Jack, this is probably the most noted. I'm glad you pointed that out the other night, because once you said that, we were drinking, the light bulb just came on. You hit it square on the head with that.
Well, I'm glad I got something right. Like I said, whiskey's not really my experience is very limited, but I was definitely, that was like the first thing that really stuck out to me. And I love that note. I just think it works really well with the caramel and the oak notes, and then with the nose having that little perfumey note as well to complement the fruity note that translates to the palate. I think it's excellent, and I'm really glad you sent me the bottle. I've obviously enjoyed it. It's gone.
Oh yeah, I've enjoyed a couple of bottles myself. I won't probably never dig into this one till this is probably go to the keeper larder. So some days,
right. And you've got, didn't you say you have a bottle, or you've had it before, the 10-year one, or
just all I got is that little half pint of the 10-year. I had two pints. I bought half pints. I gave one to the Scotch test dummies, and I kept the other one for myself. And
so you don't want to no pressure, but you didn't want to get into that and do a little side by side before we go off air, did you?
No. We're not going to do that with that. That's another one that I'm probably never going to find again. So if you're never going to find it again, it's kind of hard to want to drink it. I mean, someday when I'm an old man and I could sit down and all the other old men around me, I could pull it out and say,
don't wait too long, though. I hear that your taste buds start to deteriorate after about 65 or so. So
I will wait and find out. I got 11 years. But the Charter 101 is the one I wanted to show you, and not for the life of me. I have a bottle of that. I just don't know where it's at. And
that's a good problem to have, though. You have so many different bottles and whatever, you can't locate them. That's a good problem to have versus like having one or two bottles and you really want to get into it. Like me, I usually keep 5 or 6 different bottles on hand at a time, but I kind of work through them, and like you've obviously collected quite a few over the years, and you've got a nice selection there.
Right.
But anyway, that's something maybe one of these days when I maybe get a little bit more space, and I'd like to start a little collection as well as get into maybe home brewing. I mean, there's like all kinds of stuff that I would like to do, but it's the space right now, it's not really practical for me.
I think home brewing sounds fun and it sounds interesting, but I have so many hobbies that I don't have space for another one. I mean, I collect whiskey, and like we've talked about it before. This was not overnight strung together. This is years.
Right. Yeah. Many years.
People look at that and they go, "Oh my God, yeah, well, yeah, it's oh my God." But there's 5, 6, 10 years stuffed into all these bottles back here. It's not just an overnight thing. So, but I just can't afford another hobby. I like fishing. I like riding my motorcycle, and I like acquiring whiskey and drinking it. So
there you go. Drunken One says, "Boo-hoo," and then "Work it, baby." All right, Drunken One. Not really sure what you. Okay.
He's been getting in his
afternoon ice
homebrew before. He was drinking the mash out of the homebrew. It's already started to work.
Yeah, he's having psychological, stuff going on right now. Well, I guess we can go ahead and take this off air. Sounds like we both really like the Old Charter 8-year. Once again, thank you. I will post a link to anybody watching to Robert the Whiskey. If you haven't already checked out Robert's channel, definitely go do so. He does great whiskey reviews. His link will be in the description below when this video finally processed and up on YouTube. And there's the last little bit of the Old Charter.
I finished mine. I got things to do this afternoon, so I don't want to drink no more, especially after that 24 ounces of 9.5% beer we had about an hour and a half ago.
Yeah. Oh, gee. Thanks, Angela. She says 2 of her favorite people. Awesome.
Thank you, Angela.
All right. Well, we'll go ahead and wrap it up there. Thanks to everybody in the chat. This is kind of a spur of the moment thing. We didn't really have it planned out for too long, so appreciate everybody stopping by and watching, and we'll see you all on the next one. Robert and I may do the Jim Beam Black 8-year.
I look forward to it.
And the other one, the Wellers, we might look at that one at a future date as well. So there you go. Sneak preview, guys. All right, so that'll do it for this live examination of the Old Charter 8-year age straight Kentucky bourbon whiskey. We'll see you all on the next one. Hope you all have a great rest of your weekend. And until next time, everybody, cheers.
Cheers. Thank you, John.